In fact, we'll be co-chairing. I think all presentations are on there, so we should be able to find them. If not, we've got your key on standby. Good idea to have your key on standby. What we're thinking in terms of the running, I'll keep the same running order, like 5 minutes or 10 minutes for the presentations, if we can. So just pick out the key Good. That gives a bit more time to question.
Maybe we should just
start. And I think we should do it together, because it's a together thing. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. We're about to open the session. For the session today, we've got 2 co-presenters.
Yes.
We're standing in for Bart. So you're going to get a double act. 2 for the price of 1.
We have to use the microphone, that's right. It's because they are recording everything we say. Yeah. And can you hear us? It's fine like this, good. So we are replacing the chairman that should have been here. And today we will have 5 presentations regarding the Geoportal. And we will try to minimize the time of the slides, but that, or the time of the presenters, but that means that you have to be active instead and ask the questions and get some conversations in here.
Thank you. And just to make sure we've got the right people in the room, the session is making and using Geoportals. And very shortly I'm going to invite the first speaker to come up and give his presentation. So an update on the activities of the MIWP 16, and I'll introduce Paul.
Sure. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming just after lunch. I will try not to be too boring. And so this presentation is indeed, as the title says, an update on the activities of MIG MIWP 16. 2 acronyms. Some of you, I'm sure, know what it means in the room, because if I see some people who for sure know perfectly what it means, because they are in that group. And that is about improve usefulness and reliability of monitoring information. It was supposed to work, no? Now it works. Indeed, now it works. Thank you. So, as our co-chairs asked us to be brief, we'll say a few words about monitoring and reporting, what it is. A few words about MIG, but that's really very few words, because there has been a whole session about it, so just in case some of you have not been there. And what are these various MIWP with a number behind? Then what is supposed to be done, or not supposed, what is to be done under MIWP 16, where we stand today, and what are the next steps. So monitoring and reporting. Under INSPIRE, there is an obligation for member states to provide the Commission with information about the status of implementation of INSPIRE in their member state. So there is a regulatory framework for that, one part that is legally binding, so that's already this monitoring and reporting obligation is written in Article 21 on the INSPIRE directive, and there is a Commission decision that is implementing this article. And on top of this, then there are, as usual with INSPIRE, guidelines, justification document, templates, and supporting tools. For those of you who were at my presentation this morning, I apologize, but you have 2 slides that are identical. Then about monitoring. What is monitoring? It's reporting of data of a quantitative nature. For example, the number of data sets and services provided under, or not provided, that fall under INSPIRE. Then you would have the number of conformant data sets and services, and the indicators are then will be the ratio between the number of conformant data sets versus the total number of data sets falling under INSPIRE. That's just one example. You have that also for services and so on. This is provided on a yearly cycle, and technically member states use either Excel or XML to provide this information. Next to the monitoring, there is the reporting that is then used to provide information of a qualitative nature, more aimed at really looking how INSPIRE then is implemented in member states, and also what effect it already had in member states. And for this, it's a 3-year cycle, and that took place last year. Just an example of an indicator so that you have an idea of what we speak about. This one is about conformity of metadata for data sets and services. So it's a ratio between the total number of data sets and services who have conformant metadata versus the total number of data sets and services falling under INSPIRE for one given member state. And then so you have a ratio from 0 to 1, or then you just transform it in percentage. So now that we know what monitoring and reporting is, what is MIG, what are the MIWP with a number behind. MIG stands for Maintenance and Implementation Group. It's a commission expert group composed of two permanent subgroups, one that's called the MIGP, that is the permanent policy subgroup, and you have the permanent technical subgroup. I belong to the technical subgroup. This group then has a rolling work program and is in charge of, as the name says, working really on the maintenance of INSPIRE, facilitating the implementation of INSPIRE, solving issues that are found when indeed we are trying to implement and we see that there are, for example, problems in the technical guidelines or things that need to be improved, and so on. And this MIWP-XX all stand for various work packages. And these work packages then are managed by subgroups, can be managed then by subgroups that are set up temporarily. Then what are we supposed to what have we been asked to do on this number 16? We have been asked to investigate how to automate the calculation of monitoring indicators, and because what member states really wanted at a workshop held in Copenhagen last year was to improve really the quality of the metadata information, reduce the burden on their side to provide this information, and therefore also to make a better use of the information that is deriving from these indicators. And so the main action proposed was, once we have investigated how to calculate these indicators by relying on metadata, to start conceiving and developing a dashboard that would allow for an easy analysis of these indicators. So where are we today? I mean, it's an active group, 33 members from 17 member states, plus of course the Commission and the European agencies. In that group there are also many MIG members, so not only experts nominated by the MIG members, but the MIG members themselves. And we had so far several web meetings and 2 physical meetings. The last one has taken place in fact on Tuesday afternoon from 2 to 1/4 to 7, but we produced at least something useful. We involved also all the member states when we felt that it was needed. So there has been a questionnaire sent to the national contact points and to the INSPIRE reporters in order to gather their views on how the monitoring process is done in their countries and how they would benefit from a dashboard. And regarding the terms of reference that I presented briefly before, the review of indicators has been completed, and the functional and non-functional requirements of the dashboard have been defined. That's something we just finalized indeed on Tuesday. So that allows me to say very few words about the main characteristics of this dashboard. It should provide access to all monitoring information and all related indicators per member state. Let's not forget that it's a completely voluntary participation and that this has no legal value. That's a crucial point. The monitoring will be based mostly on metadata harvested from the discovery services, either from the INSPIRE Geoportal or from the national Geoportals, and will be complemented by other information that will be provided by the member states, as not all indicators can be calculated exclusively based on the metadata. And the aim is to provide an up-to-date monitoring status, up-to-date being left also at the choice of the member state. I mean, some might want to have their indicators recalculated every week. Some might be very happy having it only every couple of months. Some functionalities, so a very easy and intuitive interface to use and so to navigate through the dashboard. Possibility to build your own queries to access, to retrieve some metadata elements, not to retrieve some metadata elements, but in fact to be able to identify also, for example, which data sets have been identified by a member state as falling under a specific theme. That's also very useful for member states to compare from one to the other to see what did my neighbor put, for example, under I would say protected site. I mean, what kind of data set did they put there? Yes, I mean, maybe I have the same, maybe I could do it also. And then also possibility to see for each data set or service at least its metadata and the declared conformity by the member state. Might be more in future, but at least that. Planning, first functionalities will be available by the end of the year, and the second part that will be then really more with a nice looking part, if I can say like that, so with the interface displaying charts, maps and so on, that will be first quarter next year. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Paul. I think that was excellent timing. 10 minutes, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. That was excellent timing. Pretty much exactly 10 minutes, and we can take one question from the floor. We have right at the back there.
I asked you, we talked about that before, but now I'm really interested. Is there any discussion about change of indicators which would mean to touch the Commission decision, which is the base for the monitoring and reporting?
Thank you for the question. The terms of reference as they are defined foresee that we could propose some modification to the indicators as a second phase of our work, and that would be then provided as input to the MIG, who would then have to forward it accordingly.
Thank you. So I think we should move things along and perhaps invite our second speaker up. Would you like me to do that? Yes. Okay. We'll just get your slides up, Etienne. Okay, so I think we'll move straight into the presentation. So contributions of the French Geological Survey, so BRGM, my favourite organisation in France. Very nice wine around where you are. Very nice wine.
Yes.
And so managing the French Geocatalogue to provide indicators for the INSPIRE reporting. So over to you, Etienne. And we're going to start your 10-minute clock.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Etienne Taffoureau. I'm from the BRGM, the French Geological Survey, and I'm the manager of the National Geocatalogue in France. And my presentation is about our contributions to provide indicators for INSPIRE reporting. And I will present you the indicators of France for the year 2014. I've planned to make a short presentation of BRGM, but I have not a lot of time. The most important is BRGM have an experience in implementing data models in our themes and implementing web services. And so we contribute to various expert groups for INSPIRE or GC or CGI. Here is the example of one portal on geology data, on Geology Europe. But I invite you to go to the website. Here is the obligations of the directive. The last obligation is monitoring and reporting. At the right is it's an extract to the guideline for monitoring and reporting. The most important is member states have to provide each year a report with some of indicators I present after. Here is the French general model for monitoring and reporting. We have public authorities, data producers, use at local level, use SDI at regional levels, and to create metadata and diffuse metadata, data and web services, and the French infrastructure for INSPIRE is composed of two components. The Geoportal, which is managed by IGN France, and the Geocatalogue managed by BRGM. And it's the same organization. The same organization is used to process monitoring and reporting. And BRGM, with the Geocatalogue project, is responsible for providing and make the technical analysis of the indicators, and IGN is in charge of political analysis and for the triennial report. So the Geocatalogue is a metadata catalog. We can search data sets and services with a web interface or with a discovery service which is INSPIRE compliant. with CSW standards, and it integrates a validation tool to validate the metadata against Inspire requirements, and an automated process to provide indicators for Inspire reporting. We try to calculate indicators with only with metadata. We have indicators for metadata, spatial datasets, and network services. For metadata, we have the existence of the metadata, the compliance. For spatial datasets, we have to provide the geographical coverage for each themes, and the compliance, an indicator on compliance of spatial datasets. And for network services, we have 4 indicators on metadata accessibility through view and download services, dataset metadata accessibility through discovery service, and dataset accessibility through view and download services. An indicator on use of the network services and compliance of the network services. In detail, the first is existence of metadata. In France, we have this indicator is equal to 100%, because we estimate that the process is based on our catalog, and so the number of metadata is equal to a number of datasets. In the first years, we completed this information with other external datasets. In the graph, you have the blue line is the indicator. Sorry, it's in French. With the left scale, and the red and green line, or the right corresponding to the right scale, are the numerator and the denominator. The most important thing is the number of metadata as doubled from 2013 to 2014. Metadata compliance, we have this indicator is equal to 81%. It's a number of compliant metadata divided by a number of metadata. And this compliance is calculated by the validation tool in the Geocatalogue, which is based on schematron language. For the geographical coverage of datasets, which is actual area, it's the area which is covered by the spatial data, divided by the relevant area, the area total. We have not provided this indicator because it's too difficult to have this information. And some other countries, member states, don't provide this information too. The compliance of the datasets the information is declared by producers in the quality metadata element. It's not a tool. We have external tools which are used by producers, and they declared this information in a conformity element data quality. Today, we have this year we have 2% of the datasets declared conform. For the accessibility of metadata through Discovery Service, the indicator is equal to 100% because all the metadata are provided by the Discovery Service. The accessibility through view and download services is equal to 29%. And we have to increase this indicator. The last is the use of network services. It's the number of requests sent to the network services divided by the number of network services. But this indicator is not significant because it depends on the statistics tools and the methods used to calculate. The feedback, we have feedback at two levels, national level and European level. At national level, we have a working group composed of thematic representatives, Hasenohr, SHOM, IGN, BRGM, Administration and Environment. With the objective is to establish a list of datasets for Inspire and increase the quality of the content of the Geocatalogue. The task has our review of the datasets extract for the reporting each year, identify problems and make propositions to resolve them, do a feedback into providers, propose a method in order to optimize this annual task. And the conclusions, the problem we identified are the presence of non-inspired datasets with a keyword with inspired theme in the metadata. For example, the data on traffic, road traffic, the presence of duplicates in the datasets. There are a lot of mistakes in assigning inspired themes. And finally, it's difficult to identify data producers versus metadata providers, which are metadata providers are harvest points. And at European level, we contribute to two subgroups of the MIG, MIWP5 on validation of metadata, dataset and services. We have our experience of metadata validation in the Geocatalogue, and the MIWP16, sorry, on monitoring and reporting. Conclusions, the reporting process in France is based on the metadata elements referenced in the Geocatalogue, excepted two indicators, geographical coverage and the use of network services. They will not be in the dashboard, which are developed in the MIWP16. The rules used to calculate some indicators numerator have to be discussed. They are discussed in these subgroups, in this subgroup. indicators and validation need to have a common validators of metadata services and datasets. They will be developed in MIWP5. And finally, at national and local level, we have an iterative analysis and feedback leading to establish a list of datasets and to improve indicators. So thanks for your attention.
Thank you as well, Etienne, and thank you for an interesting overview and good presentation, clear. Are there any questions? Yes?
Good afternoon. My name is Andreas Hagiraftis. I come from Cyprus, Department of Land Service. In one of your last slides, you mentioned the existence of duplicated data. Is this duplicated data or duplicated data sets? And why do they exist?
Why, sorry?
Why do they exist, this duplication of data?
Duplicated data, why does that exist?
Why? Because the metadata editors duplicate the metadata, harvest metadata of original catalog and duplicates, and they don't separate when Geocatalogue harvests this catalog. The catalog which is harvested don't separate this metadata for Inspire and metadata for.
So the problem is only on metadata, not the actual data, spatial data.
I don't understand.
You don't have duplication in spatial data, it's in only the metadata. From what I understand from your response.
Is the problem within the metadata or is the problem within the data itself?
No, it's a problem of metadata, clearly.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Any further questions? Then we suggest we move forward to the next one. We have Lucian Zavate, and he's going to tell us a little bit about implementing Inspire network services for the Romanian Inspire Geoportal.
That one.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lucian Zavate. I'm with the ESRI Romania team, and I'm going to present you in the next slides our efforts in implementing the Geoportal for Romania. Geoportal is just an interface between the SDI itself and the user. So you'll see here efforts spread across all of the functionalities and what the Geoportal should contain. Just to put you in context, the legal aspects regarding the Inspire implementation in Romania, in 2010, the directive was transposed into local legislation, and in that directive, they also established a group which is called the NIS Council, and it's composed of 19 organizations. All of these organizations are joined in an effort to implement Inspire in Romania. NECPI is the legally mandated organization, so it assumed a role in implementing Inspire and played a central role. And we like to consider them the supporters, to consider them that they are supporting the Romanian Inspire community. In terms of the implementation itself, we used ArcGIS for Inspire and I don't know why it keeps jumping to the next slide. So we use ESRI platform and ArcGIS for Inspire to leverage the existing databases and the existing data sets that NECPI and other contributors had. So we began this effort back in 2009, and at that time we actually understood that there are plenty of data sets available that we should only harmonize and then build on top of those data sets Inspire network services. The Geoportal itself, I hope I have time to show you to have a brief presentation of it. It's a multi-tenant Inspire Geoportal. This means it actually serves all the 19 organizations. Each organization has its own reserved virtual workspace in which it handles the metadata, just the metadata yet, and any CPI supporting with the data itself. So the Romanian Inspire node architecture, when we first began building it, we had to take into consideration aspects such as business continuity. We have to understand that a Geoportal has to be recoverable, it has to assure redundancy, and also has to be maintainable. We have to comply to quality of service requirements that are formulated in the Inspire technical guidelines. Also, we consider data to be an asset, and as an asset, it has to be shared, it has to be accessible, and also it has to be secured, because we all know how security is. We tried to have an architecture that would actually take all the Inspire required functionalities and separate those in different nodes. And you'll see, because I have a small picture of the architecture itself. The Geoportal was built having in mind use of common application, that actually all the resources that are being published through the Geoportal can be used in different ways, and of course compliance with law. As I told you, hopefully this will work. So as I told you, we try to have separation of concerns, and as you can see, we have nodes for each type of functionality that the Geoportal actually makes available for the user. We have transformation services, we have download services. Each of these is being served by its own cluster. This is a conceptual representation. Actually, there are more servers inside there, because we have to comply to different requirements. Another important step was the acceptance process, which spread across multiple stages, as we actually implemented Geoportal, the network services, and then the ETLs for harmonizing the data, each one with its own acceptance. I'm sorry. I don't know why it keeps doing that. So one of the criteria that we used was testing compliance against the Inspire Geoportal metadata validator for both metadata and the services themselves. We did lots of quality of service testing. I don't know how many of you are familiar with SOAP UI and Load UI. We heavily used it, and we found it to be quite powerful. And we also had an overall security testing, which was done by a third-party governmental organization. This was spread across 2 months. So now I'll get to the interesting part, the data harmonization part. We had to actually work with different storage models. Excuse me.
I'm just wondering if we can do anything for the slides too.
No, I will just.
If you can go back.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why it does that. So within NACPI, we had multiple data stores. One is, as you'll see, that there's a project inside which is called Topro 5. It's topographic base map of Romania 1 to 5,000. Actually, now it's 1 to 1,000. And also Etera, which is the Romanian Cadastral Land Registry. So we had to deal with all of these different storage models, different schemas, different workflows and data acquisition processes, and also we had to deal with the national coordinate system, which is a different story. I mean, I would need a different time slot just to tell you about that. It's different. It was difficult. So we had to leverage the existing data. Still, we couldn't touch the production environment. We had to assure that their business will still go on, and we can actually draw data from their production environment and make it available in Inspire context. So having that in mind, we began by actually understanding the data schemas, both the input and output, so the production environment and the Inspire output schema, and then we just created ETLs that would allow us to migrate 5 Inspire data themes: administrative units, cadastral parcels, geographical names, hydrography, and transportation network. All of the ETLs are usable because we have to understand that data is changing, and this is not a one-time process. We have to have synchronization mechanisms in place that would actually allow us to see the latest data available. So far, the Romanian Inspire Geoportal includes 5 Inspire View services, which are based on the previously migrated and previously harmonized data sets: administrative unit, cadastral, parcel, geographical names, hydrography and transportation network. And we also have 5 Inspire interoperable download services, out of which only 1 is publicly available. Actually, it happens the same with the Inspire View services because NECPI is considering selling the services. This is their decision. We'll see how it will go. The problem that we actually encountered in, harmonizing the data is, I try to just mention a few of those which I found to be important. Data changes take place in production environments, so we had to ensure that their business would continue. Synchronization that change. We had to have in place synchronization mechanism that will actually allow us to migrate all of the modification into Inspire compliant database. And we also have to ensure an object lifecycle management because we have to have traceability. I will talk on each of the data repository. First is the TOPRO 5. As I told you, this is the Romanian topographic map 1 to 5,000. Now it's 1 to 1,000. We actually updated it a month ago. In this case, we had low rate in data changes for most of the data sets, and the synchronization usually takes place once or twice a year. We only have one theme, which is administrative units, that has medium rate in data changes because there are still administrative boundaries that are being disputed by the administrative units themselves, and this is settled by law. We have to make it available in the Geoportal so the user has the latest and the official data. The data is served by using as a cached map service using S3 World topographic based map template. I don't know how many of you are familiar. We found it to be quite a good best practice, and we started on it. And the recaching is only done just for updated areas. This is for the topographic base map, and the other system that I was talking to you about was the ETERAC, the Cadastral and Land Registry system. Come on, go back. And this is a different story because we have high rate in data changes. The data is actually changing daily. As we speak, people are buying and selling properties, and more properties are getting split. So the next day we have all of this data available within the Geoportal, so the user can actually see it. Synchronization is done every night. We have automatic synchronization. We also have reporting mechanism in place that actually allow us to monitor if the processes are taking place appropriately. In the ETL, the ETL is based on RGS data interoperability and SQL because we have an Oracle real application cluster behind it, and we try to leverage as much as we can on those capabilities as well, like partitioning, parallel querying, and spatial types, because it's very important to do so. Also, the data is being served dynamically, so we as I told you, this is happening every night, so caching would not be appropriate. So what I would like, I don't know how much time do I have? 1 or 2 minutes?
1 minute.
1 minute. 1 minute. This is working. So I would just like to show you briefly the Geoportal itself. I don't have an internet connection. Unfortunately.
Just for you 1 minute.
Congress. I will connect it right now. Yes. That's it. Maybe next presenter will benefit from it. I'm not going to go into details about the Geoportal itself because many of you know we've been using RGS for Inspire solution. This is based on S3 Geoportal server, but what I would like to draw attention is the viewer itself that actually leverages the data content, and we should also have here the cadastral parcels. So this is the topographic 1 to 5,000 project, which actually now it's 1 to 1,000. I was just trying to show the detail that we have in here. This is official data. So if I can go down below, I can see buildings and administrative and addresses. We also make available imagery split across years as it was being flown. And one more minute. This is the application that actually allows us to consult the land registry. As you can see, we have some administrative boundaries which are in red. These are still being disputed, so this is not settled yet. Hopefully I'm in an area where I have, as you can see, here are the cadastral parcels with a few information. Just in a nutshell, not too much. But this is data which is actually being used, actively being used, and I also have statistics on that, but another time. Thank you.
Marvellous. Thank you very much, Lucian. I think a big round of applause from everyone. And I think your question time was used by demonstration, so you...
I don't mind.
But we'll ask you questions later on.
Yeah,
so I
sure.
suggest we move on to our next presenter. If we can line up the slides. And we'll follow the same process for this presentation, but take the time you need. Okay. So Eliza is going to give us a presentation on cartography and the internet and the National Spatial Data Portal. So we look forward to it.
Okay,
thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my presentation. As my chairman said, my name is Eliza Asendy, and I behalf Head Office of Geodesy and Cartography in Poland. And 15 or 10 minutes is really little time to show how our Geoportal works. But I hope that after my presentation you visit our websites and just try. How we find in a point when we are now. Some history and main stones, our works show you Marcin Grudin on his presentation, so you can find it in presentation how far are we. This is just a picture. In our institution, in Central Geodetic and Cartographic data resource, we have a lot governmental data, but for a long time we didn't show them. They were hidden, and in 2005, we just have an idea to show users what we have, and some years later we start our first Geoportal. It was Geoportal Gov.pl, but we built this Geoportal. We didn't know how it should look like and how it should do, what we should do. And it was a first edition, and then next year we just try to build a new solution, but now not exactly new, but try to some new functionality. And last year we end our works and have a new Geoportal. It's main websites. It's an information. You can find many information, but the most important information you find in 4 labs about Geoportal, services, data, and applications. Here you can find all the important information about data which our Geoportal provides. For example, about topographic maps, you can find some simple information. Oops. Okay. See the visualization, and in some examples you can find related to the external pages when you can find more information about the data. In lab services you can find description all the services that we have. In, for example, for WMS services, you can find characteristic of standards, and it's a good place to find all the addresses for the services which we have in our Geoportal. And also you can find some simple information how you should use this Geoportal to see, use the services to see the data on the map. In lab application, you can find information about other product that we built in our project. For example, about metadata editor. Here we have some technical information, some pictures, because we have some votes from our users that our first Geoportal was sometimes too hard to use for users, for not advanced users. So we make a decision to some functionality take on the main to the top our site. To simplify using Geoportal and get the information and get data. And the same we do with services. And our map browser, it's a first site. First look when you go, but it has also 4 interface for users: national, geodetic and cartographic, Inspire, and our new product statistic modular. In National Geoportal is a universal portal for all the users. Here you can find all the most understandable data for users. At the moment we have 12 layers. Geodetic and cartographic Geoportal is a more specialist tool. Here we can find data, for example, network of control points and indexes for the data, for the topographic maps, for the orthophoto maps, and other photogrammetric product. And last but not the least, Geoportal, Inspire Geoportal, it's a very important place because here we published all the harmonized data and all the harmonized metadata for data and for services. At the moment, on this Geoportal is published data from the first annex, which the leading body in Poland is General Surveyor of Poland. Okay. And statistic module. It's, as I said, our new product. You can do some statistic data. You can use the data which are published in Geoportal, but also you can use the data from the user. And results of works can be published as a cartogram or a cartodiagram. But the power our Geoportal is that it is not only map viewer. You can also use your data and external data published in by other Geoportal. You can use WMS services. If, for example, here we are data from the protected area, which are not our institution. This is an external source. Of course, in Geoportal you can also do some operation, simple operation that you need to do some analysis. And our Geoportal is also on mobile device, and for the most popular device on Android, iOS and Windows Mobile. And of course it's for free, and everybody can use. And some statistic, our network services numbers, but this statistic also was in presentation Martin. And most popular data sets is number of requests to the services. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Eliza, for this overview. And are there any questions, short comments? Yeah?
Just the last slide.
You have to talk into the mic. Sorry,
Dean from Canada. The last slide, was that numbers per year, or what were those numbers from?
Is a number for 1 month.
For 1 month, wow, okay.
Thank you for that. I think we continue to the next one. That's Theodoros Vakkas. And he's going to tell us a little bit about the SDI Geoportal, Geoportal, delivering Inspire through open source technology. That will be interesting. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I will start with a conclusion. The chairman before instructed us to keep on the basics, on the important. So there is a free and open source tool developed by a Greek company that can be used for deploying Inspire Geoportals. It's it offers very rich functionality, and it's very reliable. So I could stop now, but I'll continue with a few more. I'm representing Geospatial Enabling Technologies. We're a Greek SME founded in 2006, acting in the spatial IT arena. Our expertise regards Inspire and SDIs. We also offer system design and integration, being behind and very supportive of the open source and open data initiatives. A lot of our strength derives from our partners. We also have an extensive customer base. and we are also participating in research programs. Maybe you should know the Public Amundi one. It's a very interesting. It's going to provide geospatial awareness to the CCAN platform, where the open data portals are more tangible for simple users that are not familiar with the geospatial technology, with Geoportals and advanced functionalities. So, dealing with Inspire for the last, let's say, 6 years, we have the trend to use open source and but also proprietary technology, practically covering all the aspects of Inspire. This had led us to create and use to use a stack of Phosphor-G technology for supporting the directive implementation. On the top of the pyramid is our software. It's the community software. I'm sorry, it's free and open source now. I would like to say a few things about the principles. I was in a presentation to do today earlier about linked data, open data. I can see that there are the same words around the domain. It was said that data should be known, firstly known, secondly attainable, and thirdly usable. This is the relative statement from Inspire. You see there's one-to-one correspondence. So what we're trying to cover is the need of the final user, who in the majority is not really interested in the underlying details. So he needs a tool that is quick, it's fast, and it's easy to use. This is a screenshot from the Regulatory Authority for Energy in Greece. I'll talk to you about that later. So, GetSDI portal. It's free and open source, available under the GPL version 3 license, as free as it can get. It has been delivered initially for the Regulatory Authority for Energy in Greece back in 2011. The project was trying to address the Inspire compliant SDI. It's a thematic SDI, not a local one. And back at that time, maybe it should be considered more like a WMS viewer, data viewer, and metadata client. Today, 3 years later, we consider it to be a very complete solution. Based on standards adoption. We use standards and the interoperability they offer. So we cover the last part of access to data and metadata in a transparent and easy way. It offers support for view services, download, discovery services, also KML, Atom, GeoRSS, WMC. This functionality, these all in the parentheses, there are the corresponding OGC and ISO standards. Its key features include maybe for me the searching tools. They are encapsulated in the software. You can query the data. You can select the data of your interest. You can download only the record of your interest. Also, there is support for federated metadata catalog search. You can search within a lot of catalogs simultaneously. There is advanced styling. You can perform cartographic. You can apply cartographic symbolization, thematic mapping within the browser. And also we have lately added 3D view. It's based on other open source projects, Open Layers, XJS, GeoExt, Proj4, and on the server side it's written in PHP. Here are some screenshots from the software. This is the identify operation. This is the info tab on the right, saving down on the left in multiple formats. And also there is a transformation of coordinate system on the fly below, it's covered. Here is the search tool I was saying it's maybe the more interesting. The user can design area of interest, and it searches across all the visible layers, grouping the results. And we also have attribute queries. We can perform against the attributes with AND, with Boolean logic inside, result table on the lower. Here is the metadata, metadata part. We have we support the Inspire queryables, and on the right there is the visualization of the metadata record located. Here is the result list of the search. So what makes it special? It's really easy to install. We can have it up and running in your system in 5 minutes. Of course, for an enterprise installation, it would require something more than that. It's really modular, configurable, expandable. We have done something really interesting. We have integrated with SICAN. Users are searching in the open data catalog and supported by SICAN, and they are redirected directly to the Geoportal, where they have all this advanced functionality. We have to underline again, it's free and it's open source. It can be used for those who are interested in publishing data, getting data, edit data. You will see something in a few minutes. And we also, it's actually being used to cover non-inspired needs in ad hoc solution for enterprise cases. It is already used in the Greek Regulatory Authority for Energy in 10 municipalities. 2 are on the way. The Organization for Urban Plan and Environmental Protection of Athens, where all the land use of a city of 5 million is presented. The Geographic Institute of Ecuador, private sector in Ghana and UK. We're really proud we support the academia. We get requests from students for their dissertations, thesis. We support them. It's their first step to the geospatial technology. Sometimes they need to visualize data. They have heard about viewing services, how I can show something, how I can see something, how can I present it. There are some examples. We're trying to be as active as we can, since the community is not really expanded yet. Hopefully it will be. The project has already been part of the Join Up and the Arena platform since last year. It has moved to the Transfex for multilingualism and translations, and we also participated in the SME Inspire Challenge that took place this year. Plans for future include editing through the web with advanced tools, snapping, splitting, all within the browser. Advanced printing with what you see is what you get functionality. We are also designing to act as a WPS client to perform transformation workflows on the web. And we are examining the case it will go mobile also. So that would be all. I'm concrete.
No, thank you, Theodoros. I think that was a very interesting presentation, and you could see all the work that's gone into that. So I think we can allow one question for Theodoros, and then we might have a... So is there any questions from the audience? So how long did you say it was to set it up for not an enterprise installation?
You can have it in your local machine in less than 5 minutes.
5 minutes, you've got a Geoportal now. That's impressive.
Yes. Yeah. We assume there are services, you can consume it directly.
Okay. And for more enterprise scales, do you have a sense of...
okay,
depends?
It really depends.
Yeah.
But for testing, for using in your own machine, you can do it in less than 5 minutes. It's a web application, needs to be copied, paste in a web directory.
Marvelous.
Of a web server.
I love simple. Simple's good.
Simple's good, yes.
Okay, so I think that will leave us with a few moments to ask more general questions. So I'd like to open the floor now to questions for all of our speakers. Anything that you picked up from our presentations this afternoon, anything you thought were particularly useful, anything we should fill in on the feedback form here. In fact, we might ask you to do our work for us. So we have one question, one question from the audience. I'll just pass you on.
I have one question for Romania, please. As I understand from your presentation, you are maintaining 4 different databases, 2 for cadastral and 2 for topographic. So you have the production database, the live database, and you synchronize the second database for Inspire purposes, isn't it?
So the cadastral agency maintains 2 projects. One is the topographic base map, in which we have lots of data sets. It's around 20 or 30 data sets. And the other is the cadastral, is the land register application, which actually holds data about properties, about cadastral parcels. Those are 2 systems which work on their own. They have their own production environment, their own databases. So we provided ETLs, that stands for extract, transfer, load. So we provided instruments that allow synchronization between the production database and the Inspire database, because we have an Inspire compliant database that actually serves and stands for all of the services that I've shown you.
So for the topographic database, I understand this is huge in volume.
It's around 30 data sets.
Not only data sets, but in volume.
In volume itself, no, it's vector data, it's not so big, I mean.
But you have shown also aerial photographs and satellite images.
Yeah, that is for orthophotograph. It's for aerial images. That is huge. That's like 5 terabytes of data.
So for these kind of databases, my question is, do you face any performance problems?
We had lots of performance problems. We addressed them with the customer, with the NCPI, and as they appeared, we solved them. But we had to do lots of optimization. For example, we had to use partitioning, Oracle partitioning. We use it a lot. So we have counties. So each county has its own partition in the database. So the search is much faster and the display is much faster because we also use that. We use parallel querying, as I told you. This allows us to take a query and split it across multiple threads, and this reduces the time for the query itself. So we had lots of performing issues. Also in the service area, serving the data, so we optimized it, we cached it, we put, for example, scale factors and stuff like that. It was an iterative process to actually get to that performance. The raster data itself, the whole sets that we have are around 20 terabytes of data, but we've optimized, we created caches and stuff like that, so the overhead was around 5 terabytes also. So it's big.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you for the answer. So do we have any other questions from the audience in terms of our speakers? I think there were some fantastic presentations there. great stuff going on in Romania. Fantastic work going on in terms of open source. Challenging things going on in France. And Poland. You could see the amount of work that went into that. So I think a big round of applause for our presenters. A big round of applause for the audience. So thank you all for participating, and do talk to people, so do connect with everybody, and a big thank you to our co-presenter, so thank you. And thank you for all your